Hey, los pollos hermanos. So last season crazy things happened and it left all of us a giant wow. And that's why after that season I'm salivating for the next season. So here we are, the highly anticipated Breaking Bad. First episode following the two-word title pattern, Box Cutter. This episode is the aftermath of what happened last season. And it's bad. Anna Gunn, I don't know what's wrong, but she looked really different than last season. Well, I guess we shouldn't care about that. No matter what, this episode is great. It's really intense, especially when Gus came into the lab and you don't know what his reaction is after this crazy thing that happened last time. He spoke no single word, and Walt was already sweating. And then Gus did something insane, and then Walt and Jesse were shocked, and so were the audience. Really, Breaking Bad is all about the element of surprise, and it is a promising premiere episode, I have to say. Moving on to episode 2, 38 Snub. Honestly, I think this episode is quite underrated. It has tense moments, surprises, montages, comedic moments. It satisfies the qualifications to be labeled as a good Breaking Bad episode. Yes, nothing insane happened. And in contrast of the last episode, this episode may let you down a little bit. But the acting performance and the story is great. So after all that happened last time around, the situation became darker. While Walt was being really paranoid and almost did something really stupid, Jesse just tried to forget about it all. By the way, Bryan Cranston had a cameo. Then it's episode 3, Open House. It's another slow-paced episode, and it's not as intense as you may expect. It's basically the same storyline, with the previous episode and some interesting bits. Like Walt and Skyler buying the car wash. Skyler was all out for it, and then Marie decided to play around with fake names and started stealing things. So, there's that. It might be a filler, but there's that. A friend of Hank, probably Gomez, had a copy of laboratory notes of Gale now, so they're one step closer to Heisenberg. Then it's episode 4, Bullet Points. This episode really picked back up the pace and added more possibilities to the storyline. So the first half was Walt and Skyler practicing lying to Hank, Marie, and Walter Jr. about the whole blackjack thing. The second half was all about Walt finding out that Hank is onto Heisenberg, so he's worried about Jesse. Then Mike also came to Jesse's house and saw a mess, so he wanted Gus to do something about it. By the way, the new Jesse haircut, go Heisenberg. This episode was like any other average Breaking Bad episode. It's good, it has ups and downs, one problem leading up to another problem. Moving on to episode 5, Shotgun, which, in my humble opinion, is quite underrated. Again, it has all what a good Breaking Bad episode needs. Montage, intense scene, funny scene, surprises. Again, the show makes the best montages in the television history. You have to agree with that. So, in this episode, Mike and Jesse continue to do their thing and Walt freaked out. So the beginning looked really intense and it looked like the ultimate standoff between Walt and Gus. And Mike and Jesse as well. But it's not really that, so yeah. But instead, this episode slowed things down a little bit. Instead, it showed us how entertaining boredom can be. Because Jesse was so bored, we see a montage about how bored he is. And then Walt had to work alone. It's boring for him and it's fun to watch. Also the scene where Walt was supposed to be relieved when Hank decided to say goodbye to the Heisenberg case. Instead, Walt encouraged Hank to continue looking for Heisenberg. Walt is crazy, wow. Walt was putting himself in danger. Why? Because he started to become more and more egotistic. Then the story went on to episode 6, Cornered. The first scene was really shocking. I am the danger. I'm the one who knocks. Bryan Cranston proudly played that line. That role, speaking that line. That's some great dialogue and one of the best quotes in television history. Other than that, Walt became more egotistic and more paranoid while Jesse continued helping Mike and learning about a cartel which is up against Los Pollos Hermanos, the Chicken Brothers, which sounds more like a fast food restaurant rival. But no, it's cartel. Funny thing, but at the end of the episode, it looked like the tables have turned again when you see Skyler confront Walt. Then it's episode 7, Problem Dog. The teaser was good. The next couple of scenes after it was great, and the drama is heating up. The teaser was Jesse playing a video game, first-person shooter, and it is a metaphor for shooting you-know-who, and Jesse hesitated to replay the game, but he did. Then it's the car scene. You may think it's a crazy scene when Jesse went nuts with go-karts. Now we see Walt go nuts with a Chevrolet, and it didn't end quite well, and I like how the show keeps making Walt doing unpredictable things. And then, with great performance from Aaron Paul, the scene at the rehab was amazing, and with Hank come even closer to Heisenberg, drama did heat up. Moving on to episode 8, Hermanos, meaning brothers in Spanish. So this episode is a Gus Fring episode, and it's not as good as I thought it was. I thought this episode is going to be an outburst, a turning point, a twist, a surprise, or something like that. But no, it's about Gus. So Hank continues with his investigation on Gail's murder and Gus Fring, and he made Walt help him. And then we watch this scene, which is so intense and awkward at the same time. It's like Walt's family life and his secret life meeting each other. It's a good scene. And then the second half of the episode is a flashback about Gus, which is pretty good. Then the story went on to episode 9, Bug, which according to the teaser, although it's still rated 8.9 in IMDb, or IMBD, I still deeply believe that this episode is where the drama begins. First, the teaser is really good. There was blood dripping, and the music kind of syncs with it, and it is cool. And the further I watched this episode, everything started to fall into place. And when I watched the last scene, I was like, oh, so that's why the teaser happened. Second, I just love how the show gets us worried to keep us at the edge of our seats. There are a few things to worry about. Gus facing the cartel, Skyler and Ted's problem, Hank's investigation, and the fight Walt and Jesse had, the conflicts. Overall, it is a good episode, and I expect something really dramatic next episode. Moving on to episode 10, Salute, which is the best episode of the season so far. There's no insane surprises or intense suspense this episode, but it's still a great episode. This time, Gus, Mike, and Jesse went to Mexico to visit the cartel of Don Eladios. The initial plan was to hand Jesse to the cartel and let him be the great chemist. On the other hand, Walt had bruises and blood all over him, not totally conscious, and he also missed Walt Jr.'s birthday party. First of all, the makeup for Bryan Cranston is good, and his performance alone perfects Walter White, and I know it's not the first time I said it, but Bryan Cranston is amazing. And so is Aaron Paul. He went to this really professional cartel base that had, like, scientists wearing white cloaks with crazy university degrees, and this random junkie Jesse just showed up and nailed it. He cooks meth better than all of those professional scientists. And the ending scene was spectacular. Gus was badass. And I say it's an epic scene, but I won't spoil what happened. But this episode had a hell of an epic end credits music. Seriously, when I watched this episode, it was actually literally the best television episode I had ever watched in my whole life so far. This is episode 11, Crawl Space. That's the exact reason why I didn't watch this episode on weekdays, because I know if I watch this episode on weekdays, it'll affect my performance at school. Before I watched this episode, I told myself, if this episode is going to be another underwhelming episode, I'm gonna be disappointed. But no, what happened on this episode blew my mind. Now it's like after I watched an insane episode of Game of Thrones, I was like, oh my gosh, this war happened, this guy died, this happened, and it's a whole new level of drama. The writers are the best. And then I watched great episodes of Breaking Bad, and I said the same thing. Oh my gosh, it is even better. How is it possible? How can you be even better? So now, let's actually get into the episode. Crawl Space. With many problems Walt is facing right now, Jesse had beef with him, Ted got into troubles, and his wife Skylar had to pay. He and Hank had to go out and check on Gus' place. It was intense. But the ending. Oh my gosh! The ending is one of the best scenes ever. And spoiler alert, cause wow. So the first half of the episode was fine. Second half blew me up 50 miles in the air. When Hank wanted to visit the laundry and he knew there's a super lab underneath, he called Walt to drive. And guess what Walt did? He crashed the car. Oh my gosh. And that's not the greatest part. Later on, it already kinda sucks when we see Jesse and Walt still fighting. Not really, since Walt apologized, but Jesse was still so angry about Walt. We felt bad for Walt, and I'm sure a lot of us had similar situations. He even had worser luck when Gus suddenly captured him and fired him and warned him about Hank's death. That was already really intense, and I was shocked already. I am afraid of Gus, especially after the few previous episodes. But Walt asked, or else? And Gus said he'll kill his family, including his infant daughter. Oh shit. He panicked, ran into Saul's place, and tried to pay whatever he can to help him and his family disappear. And Skylar came, told him that she gave all his money to Ted, and then he felt extremely angry and sad, and he sobbed and he shouted. I was so shocked. It was so intense. It was devastating. And what happens next? Suddenly, Walt started to laugh. And he started to laugh more and more, hysterically, uncontrollably, enthralled. I was so shocked that happened. It was so insane, and I can't explain how shocked I was. End times might as well be Heisenberg versus Gus beginning times. Yet another really cool episode title with a lot to expect. And yet, this episode didn't let me down. And I'm giving it a spoiler alert again. Woo! So Skylar, Walter Jr., and his infant daughter all moved to Hank's place with the DEA guarding them. So now, instead of feeling worried, I felt like Walt had unlimited space for dealing with Gus. And then Brock was poisoned. Jesse rushed to Walt, pointing a gun at him and thinking that maybe Walt poisoned Brock. And then, after the Heisenberg laugh, Walt told Jesse that it was actually Gus who poisoned Brock. So now, Walt turned Jesse against Gus. Brilliant. Then, oh my goodness, this is what I've been waiting for. Walt and Jesse teaming up again, taking Gus down. But at last, Walt's plan didn't work. Gus was too smart. And gosh, if this episode ends with another Heisenberg laugh, it would be silly. But no, it didn't. The writers are as smart as Gus. This episode didn't let me down. It's suspenseful, because you don't know when will Gus attack Walt, and everybody's waiting. And it has ups and downs. I'm satisfied. Waiting for something greater next episode. Moving on to episode 13, Face Off, where this episode literally took someone's face off. It is the first television episode to be rated 9.9 on IMDb, and it is definitely one of the greatest television episodes of all times. Because of this, I had extremely high hopes for this episode. I waited until the Christmas holiday started, because I don't want to watch this episode too soon, you know? Turns out, this episode isn't as tense and as suspenseful as I expected. But it didn't really reach the bar I was hoping for. But don't get me wrong, it is still the best Breaking Bad episode so far, and the best episode I had ever watched in my life so far. Maybe it's because I'm dragging it too long. I should have watched Face Off right after End Times. But no, I waited for like 2 weeks to watch it, and a couple of important things about the episode were spoiled because of the internet. But anyways, this episode is still one of the greatest, despite the fact that there's a moment where I say, okay, it's the reckoning, it's the end of the world. And I thought there's going to be a long fight between Gus and Walt, and it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be intense. But no, it isn't that intense. But the finale, again, it's really great. It's not the tension or the suspense that is great. It's the game-changing episode. And as time goes by, I actually like the episode more and more. And I think it still deserves the 9.9. Here's some spoilers, so if you haven't watched it, skip ahead. The first scene was cool. Walt in the car park with the electronic music in the background. And then a couple of scenes also had that music at the background, which is also a bit suspenseful. But it's not like Gus versus Walt. What he's gonna do, kinda suspenseful. The scene where Gus died was spoiled for me, which means I know that Gus will die before I watched this episode. But still, the episode did an amazing job at building up the tension, making the calm, cool Gus suddenly burst all of a sudden, out of the blue, and he walked out of the room with half of his face gone, like Harvey Dent. The scene was epic. And it didn't end like Season 3 when Jesse shot Gale and oh, what will happen next? Gus died, and there was still more afterward, foreshadowing Walt's darker future. It's more like instead of leaving another crazy cliffhanger or epic shocking ending, we will have a sweeter but darker ending, revealing that Walt actually poisoned Brock, which is also spoiled for me, if you want to know. But, oh wow, this is a painful truth to learn about. At last, Breaking Bad Season 4 is even better than all of the show's previous seasons. It's even more dramatic with a more and more evil Walt. Oh, and I also really appreciate how this season continued with this Gus versus Walt or Walt versus Gus thing, and this season is certainly more suspenseful and more intense than all the previous seasons. So, good job to the writers. And also, this season is full of entertaining moments, which I really appreciate. Breaking Bad Season 4 had once again set the standard for the television in the 2010s. Again, the storytelling is epic. The characters are amazing. There's no complaints about the writing. The other things, such as the acting performance, the special effects, the music, all of it is almost perfect. The worst episode is episode 3, Open House, and the best is the finale, Face Off. I'm saying Breaking Bad Season 4 is also mind-blowing, and I'm giving it a solid 10 out of 10. So, have you watched Breaking Bad Season 4? From 1 to 10, how much would you rate it? Like if you like, and subscribe if you want more.